You are listening to part 20 of the 7 Medicines, The Wise Woman Way, with Susan Weed at Time Monk Radio. Hello, Susan. Welcome back to Time Monk Radio.
Oh, I'm so glad to be here. Let's see now. You've heard me talk about nourishing herbal infusions before.
Oh, absolutely, yes.
This is not the first time. As a matter of fact, somebody once proposed that there could be a little, remember the Chatty Cathy doll? And there could be a Chatty Susan doll, and you'd pull the string, and she'd say, drink your nourishing herbal infusions.
My husband even calls them nourishing herbal infusions.
Is he drinking them now, too?
Yes, we've both been drinking them. Gosh, I don't know if you told me 2 years, 3 years ago, but yes, daily.
And what can you say about it?
I can't imagine life before them. We do the nettle, we do linden flower, red clover, and oat straw.
And not all together, but in a rotation.
In a rotation, correct. About every 2 to 3 days we switch out.
Yeah. And when I talk to people who haven't been drinking infusions, and I say, you feel so good, you have so much energy, your skin looks so clear, your hair looks so vibrant. It's just in every possible way you feel better when you're drinking nourishing herbal infusions.
Yes, not only do you notice it on yourself, other people notice something about you as well.
Now, have you found that in these years that you've been drinking them, that anything in your diet has changed? Not because you've wrested control over it, but simply because you lost interest in certain foods?
Absolutely, yes.
And what kind of foods did you lose interest in?
I lost interest in sweet foods, sugars, any kind of alcohol, a lot of processed foods, carbohydrates. I have found that I craved just eating to nourish my body, mind, and spirit versus just eating because it tasted good. Although I still eat for pleasure, but my pleasure has changed.
This is what hundreds, if not thousands of people have told me, is that when you add the nourishing infusions onto whatever diet you're eating, that the nourishing herbal infusions gradually change how the food tastes to you.
Yes, and I crave the herbal infusions. I actually crave stinging nettle. I look forward to it in the morning.
And that change is, as you say, it's always away from refined carbohydrates.
Yes, definitely.
They simply become less interesting to us.
Mm-hmm. I agree.
It's, a friend of mine was just diagnosed with celiac disease. And she said, oh, no, life without bagels. And I thought, although it sounds good, I know that if it was in front of me, I really wouldn't want it.
I don't really want it either at all, and I don't eat it. So
yeah, because our body says, what are you doing with this? We're not getting anything from this high. And I think, again, it's part of that resonance that I was talking about, that we begin to resonate with the whole and complete vibration in these nourishing herbal infusions, and then things start to change. This is not because we think we should do something different, but simply because we are actually changing toward greater health.
Yes, it's a wonderful change.
So I talked about vitamins and minerals last time, and made what some people think is an astonishing statement, that vitamins are cooperative groups of enzymes created by stress. This is not some, crazed way of talking about things. It's not an allegory. This is science. This is hard science. What we know is that vitamins are produced by plants to protect themselves. Plants didn't get together, have a little conference and say, those human beings, they really need antioxidant vitamins. We should make them for them. No, right? We already established that all organisms need to protect themselves and to maintain their lives. And plants are under tremendous oxidative stress. We talk about free radicals in our bodies. Well, yeah, we breathe oxygen in, and that oxygen gets into our bodies, and then it actually becomes free radicals, which is a singlet oxygen atom that can kind of careen around. But plants are under twice the oxidative stress because they take in carbon dioxide, that's two oxides, and they cleave an oxygen off to begin photosynthesis. So plants are always creating free radicals. And the plants would not be around for very long in the onslaught of these free radicals if they did not have sufficient antioxidant vitamins and minerals present in the plant tissues. So the more the plant is stressed, the greater the stress on the plant, the more the plant makes vitamins. We first started seeing this by looking at things like corn. And we would measure the amount of antioxidant vitamins in corn, and then we would cook the corn by various methods and measure them again, and we kept finding the antioxidant level going up, which was quite surprising to us. And so then we took the corn and we canned it, and once again we found that the antioxidant levels went up when we canned the corn because it was processed at a very high heat. We then took this understanding and began to look at tomatoes, and found that, in fact, eating raw tomatoes gives you no antioxidant vitamins except perhaps a little vitamin C, whereas eating tomato sauce and tomato paste gives you a boatload of active antioxidant vitamins as well as carotenes that have been freed up. Carrying this yet further, in the past few years, food scientists have experimented with lettuce in how the lettuce should be prepared. Now, my mom was a fanatic about the salad preparation. The individual lettuce leaves were to be washed. They were to be patted dry with a cloth towel, then left out to ever so slightly air dry, and then the pieces were to be torn, never, ever cut. After that, things could be added to the salad, dressing could be added to the salad, but the important thing was to wash the leaf and then to tear it. What happens when we wash lettuce leaves, especially since most of us are buying lettuce in supermarkets that have automatic spray systems? Well, strangely enough, it turns out that a plant that is being washed or a plant that's getting constantly sprayed registers this as stress. And so when we watch that plant, it says, uh-oh, stress. And it actually starts making more antioxidant vitamins. When we cut a plant, that also is a stressor to the plant. And so lettuce that has been cut has more antioxidant vitamins than lettuce that hasn't been cut. I had to read this article, and it was in a science magazine. I had to read it like 2 or 3 times before I could convince myself that I wasn't reading some joke, that I wasn't reading like The Onion or somebody who was trying to spoof me, that no, this was real science telling me that cutting up my lettuce and storing it cut up would cause the lettuce to have a higher vitamin content because I stressed the lettuce by doing that. And then, of course, we discovered that cutting up garlic is important, cutting it up and letting it sit out because the oxygen acting on the allanase in the garlic produces allicin, which is the active component. The whole idea that food should be freshly picked and raw is not supported by science. It's not supported by those who know how human beings get nourishment. Vitamins are complex groups of coenzymes that are produced under conditions of stress. And that stress can be anything from not having an herbicide sprayed on you. Yes, organic produce does tend to be higher in vitamins because it is more stressed, to being boiled and cooked, to being cut up and stored in the refrigerator. All these ways of stressing the plant actually cause more vitamins to be produced by the plant. I'd like to very quickly go over the vitamins with you so that we have at least a beginning understanding of the vitamins and how it is that they are getting into our diet. For a more thorough discussion of this topic, I urge you to consider, even if you're a man, buying a copy of New Menopausal Here's the Wise Woman Way. One of the appendixes that I added to it, and it's my happiest appendix, talks about each vitamin and each mineral, not at length but shortly, and then tells you which things deplete it and which herbs and which foods are the richest in that particular nutrient. So let's go here with what we can get down in our recording. Vitamin A. There is no plant that contains any vitamin A. Vitamin A is a compound that is made in the body. We make it, most animals make it, fish make it, codfish make it, don't they? We think about taking codfish liver oil as a source of vitamin D and a source of vitamin A. So our own liver is what makes vitamin A. And vitamin A is made from carotenes and carotenoids that are found in brightly colored plants. Red, orange, green plants have carotenes and carotenoids, which the body can convert into vitamin A, but only if the cell wall has been broken by heat, by cold, by dehydration, by fermentation, or by covering it in oil. So for vitamin A activity in our bodies, we want to eat a variety of brightly colored produce which has been cooked, frozen, dried, fermented, or covered in oil. B vitamins are found mostly in muscle tissue. Eating meat is a tremendous way to get a lot of B vitamins, and the B vitamins in meat are much more usable than any B vitamin supplement. Whole grains and beans are also wonderful sources of B vitamins. With the exception of meat, beans and grains are cooked sources of B vitamins. Meat is usually a cooked source of B vitamins, although meat may be eaten raw, and it is one of the few foods in which eating it raw does confer nutritional benefit, and that's because it's not a plant. It's muscle fiber, and our body digests muscle fiber in an extremely different way than it digests plant foods. So the idea that we would get more vitamin A from raw food is completely absurd. In fact, we must in some way break the cell wall, cook our food in order to get the vitamin A from it. Similarly, the idea of eating raw food to get B vitamins simply does not hold up. B vitamins are mostly brought in from cooked foods. About the only way to destroy B vitamins when you're cooking a food is to cook it at a temperature over boiling. Now, that's pretty much impossible, isn't it? How are you going to cook something on your kitchen stove at a temperature that's higher than boiling? Oh, you're right, a pressure cooker would be that. And so I say to people, if you want to use a pressure cooker, that's great. Just never use it to cook anything rich in B vitamins. So don't cook meat, don't cook grains, and don't cook beans in your pressure cooker. And people look at me and say, but that's the only things I cook in my pressure cooker. I said, maybe you want to turn your pressure cooker into a flower pot, because all it's doing is being a device that gets rid of vitamins for you. Vitamin C is the only vitamin that is not held behind the cell wall. Any fresh plant that we eat gives us vitamin C. Vitamin C is extremely easy to get, and our need for vitamin C is quite low. A healthy adult needs 20 to 30 milligrams of vitamin C on a daily basis. A not-so-healthy adult, or one who is smoking, does better with 60 to 100 milligrams of vitamin C on a daily basis. That's not very much vitamin C. It is certainly not the amount that's in pills. And we find that the amount of vitamin C in pills basically is just not usable by the body. Also, And vitamin C is more usable if it comes in small, frequent doses. So glugging a glass of orange juice now and then, or taking a vitamin C pill, is generally going to lead to most of the vitamin C simply being excreted from your body. It's an acid, and the body does not like those acids, ascorbic acid. But if we take small amounts, right, so I walk along, pluck a leaf of a plant, and chew on it, getting vitamin C. All right, reach out, eat a couple of fresh raspberries or blackberries, getting vitamin C. Pull down a pine branch, chew on a few pine needles, getting vitamin C. Do this 2 or 3 times during the day, and you have more than adequately supplied your vitamin C needs. And vitamin D, of course, is the sunshine vitamin. And I was looking at a list of good food sources of vitamin D the other day, and I was rather horrified to see that they added as good sources things which were supplemented with vitamin D. In other words, not things that had vitamin D, like cod liver oil or sardines, because you eat the whole fish, or herring, or other small fish, or salmon, all really excellent sources of vitamin D. And none of them have vitamin D added to them. I've also been seeing that in lists about foods that are rich in calcium, that they've been adding foods that have calcium supplements as good sources of calcium. I do not consider any food which has had a supplement added to it a whole food. In fact, I do my absolute utmost best to avoid eating any food that has had any supplement added to it, and that includes drinking juice that's had ascorbic acid or vitamin C added to it, food that has had vitamin A added to it, food that has enriched flour with B vitamins. My personal experience is that when I consume these synthetic vitamins, that it alters how my body deals with and makes vitamins. Now, I'm going to go a step further here, because we've been learning a whole lot about the gut and the gut microflora in recent years. And I'm going to say, and again, totally opinion, not fact at all, that when I consume synthetic vitamins, my gut flora is changed in such a way that I am not able to adequately make the vitamins that I can make. And so it feels as though there's a shortfall. It's as though if I eat a food with a supplement in it, that my body perceives that as less nutrition, not more nutrition, and has a hard time dealing with its desire to get more nutrition for me. Vitamin D, the sunshine vitamin, 10 to 15 minutes of sun exposure of your face and arms will provide 20 to 30,000 international units of vitamin D. The recommended daily allowance of vitamin D has been bouncing around like a ping pong ball for the past 5 years, but in general we can say that it's been a pretty steady upward trend. And at this point, the recommended daily amount is about 600 units of vitamin D, with a strong push by some to move that up to 800. So even if we were to say, using round numbers, that 1,000 milligrams a day is a good amount, one day, 10 to 15 minutes in the sun will give you enough vitamin D for a month. Vitamin D is a storable vitamin. It stores in the liver. That's why cod liver oil is a good source of vitamin D. So if we were to go out for 12 days and spend 10 to 15 minutes in the sun, we would make enough vitamin D in those 12 days to cover us for the entire rest of the year. People say to me, well, I have to supplement with vitamin D because from fall equinox to spring equinox, the sun is coming in at too slanty an angle for my skin to make vitamin D. And I said, absolutely true, but think about the Vikings, think about the Scandinavians, think about people who really live in the far north, where that sun is slanty much of the time. How did they manage? They managed because during the summer months, the sun is shining right down on them, and they are fair-skinned, and they went out and soaked up vitamin D, made vitamin D, and were able to store it and utilize it all winter long. Interestingly enough, stinging nettle does contain a small amount of the natural form of vitamin D. I'm fascinated to learn that some plants can make vitamin D from the sunlight, like we do, even though they don't have a liver, and that seaweeds and mushrooms can also make vitamin D. And that's another place to get vitamin D. If you buy dried shiitake mushrooms, I don't know if it will work with any other mushrooms, but mushroom experts tell me that shiitake mushrooms, dried shiitake mushrooms, put in the sun and left in the sun for at least an hour or up to all day long in the sun, will make vitamin D, which will be heat stable, and you'll be able to get it when you cook the shiitake mushrooms. Thrilling idea. Vitamin E is an oil-soluble vitamin, and it is found in oily, fatty foods. Every seed contains vitamin E, and that vitamin E is there in the seed to protect the seed from oxidation, because vitamin E is a wonderful antioxidant. When we eat whole grains, we get vitamin E. When we are eating any kind of seeds, we get vitamin E. When we are eating fruits and vegetables that we consume with the seeds, we are getting trace amounts of vitamin E. And stinging nettle, again, is a plant, even though it's a leaf, not a seed, that does contain small amounts of vitamin E, which we get in our infusions. Vitamins F, G, H, I, and J failed the test. In order to succeed as a vitamin, there must be a deficiency disease which is caused by your lack. And the ones between E and K didn't work out. But the next vitamin then in our list is vitamin K. Nettle is one of the best sources in the world of vitamin K. It is a vitamin that is primarily found in leafy greens, along with the B vitamin factor folic acid, which is found in all leafy greens. So let's hear it for leafy greens. Hip, hip, hooray. I do my best to have at least one serving of cooked leafy greens every single day. In addition, I consider a glass of nourishing herbal infusion close to the equivalent of leafy greens. There's no fiber. That is definitely a lack, but all the other nourishment you're definitely going to get. All right, vitamins. I think we got ourselves in the know on vitamins. Let's spend a little time on minerals. Minerals, as we will recall, are basically rocks. And minerals are not a renewable resource. There's X amount of each mineral on this planet, and when we find it and dig it up, that's it. There isn't any more. Sure, we might find some more, but we can't get minerals to reproduce at order. We can't get them to clone or make more of themselves. It simply is what it is. But minerals never go away. Minerals never die. Minerals never get used up. You can take a piece of copper and you can turn it into a pipe, and when you're done using that copper as a pipe, you can remelt it and use that copper to make a glass. And when you're done drinking out of your copper glass, which, by the way, is not a good idea, you can use that copper to make flashing on your roof. And when you're done with it, and on and on and on, minerals just don't go away. They're here forever, which is good because they're not a renewable resource. And minerals in plants are here forever, too. There's no possible way that any method of cooking, whether it is heat, freezing, dehydration, fermentation, or covering in oil, is going to get rid of minerals. And in fact, every one of these techniques, because they break the cell wall, liberate minerals from the plants and make them available to us. The more we cook a food, the more minerals that we will get from it. And cooking does not have to be heat. Again, it can be heat, cold, fermentation, dehydration, or covering in oil. All of these things break the cell walls and make the minerals available to us. Yes, heat is the favorite one for getting minerals out, and especially when I'm eating my cooked grains, I'm going to cook those greens for an hour or more so that I get the maximum amount of minerals from my cooked greens. We don't have to go through the minerals one by one like we went through the vitamins, because the minerals really act as a group, although I'm not necessarily saying that they act all together at the same time. But from my years in health food stores, I have very vivid images of people coming up to the counter and looking at me with desperation and fear in their eyes. And I look down, and their knuckles are white from their hands being gripped so tightly, and they say, all right, tell me if I got it right now. I have to take calcium 3 times a day, because if you take too much calcium at once, this bad thing can happen. And I have to take the calcium with my magnesium, because calcium and magnesium, they go together. So when I take the calcium, I need to take the magnesium, but I shouldn't take the da-da-da-da-da with the calcium and the magnesium, and then this other thing. And I think, you know what? It's all in your food. Nourishing herbal infusions replace every supplement that you think you need to take. I have not taken any kind of nutrition in a pill form in more than 30 years. Again, I tell you, I worked in the industry. I sold the supplements. I know from firsthand experience, and I know from years of working with people who were getting feedback from people that taking supplements is not a way to maintain or regain health. Although supplements, which I would put under the pharmaceutical medicine category, can be used in the short term to change things. Remember, all of these medicines have their place. Now, I told you I was going to tell you a little bit about Weston Price, and really it can only be a little bit because we just don't have too much time left. Do look up his book, Nutrition and Human Degeneration, and the woman who is holding the tradition for the Weston Price Foundation, now called the Wise Traditions Foundation, and her name is Sally Fallon. That's like fall on, Fallon. Her book, Nourishing Traditions Cookbook, is a cookbook that I highly recommend. You don't necessarily have to become a Sally Fallon adherent or believe in the everything that comes out of the Wise Traditions Center, but you will find a lot of fascinating and interesting information. And as I said, Weston Price and his wife went around the planet, traveling more than 3 million miles, seeking out indigenous people, eating indigenous diets. They found a great variety of diets that could, say, sustain and maintain human health. And so, as I told you at the very beginning, and I'm going to tell you here at the end, I'm not here to tell you what to eat or what not to eat. But I will tell you that Weston Price found no vegans anywhere on the planet. No indigenous people chose to be vegans or even tolerated it. Furthermore, Weston Price said that in general he found no cultures where vegetarianism was a chosen form of eating. He said he did find some cultures which had been made war on by other cultures and were held in a position of subservience, and the way that they were held to be subservient was to force them to eat a vegetarian diet so that they could not achieve optimum health. Similarly, Weston Price found little or no raw food eaten by indigenous people for many of the reasons that I have just mentioned. He also found that the ratio of omega-3 fatty acids to the ratio of omega-6 fatty acids was approximately 1-to-1 or 2-to-1 in some diets. The current American diet has a ratio of 1 to 20, 1 to 100, 1 to 2 or 3 or 400. The seed oils that we are using, the seeds that are fed to animals, soy and corn, change the composition of fat in those animals. So you might want to think about that ratio, 1-to-1 or 1-to-3. Where can you get food that will help you achieve that ratio? Because the omega-3 to omega-6 ratio is indeed one of the critical markers of good health. We believe that omega-6 fatty acids drive inflammation throughout the body, and that inflammation is the precursor to virtually all disease. Well, it's been quite the month here, talking about the fourth medicine, lifestyle medicine, with a focus on nourishment. And next month, we're going to continue to talk about lifestyle medicine, and we're going to be looking at tonification. Thank you so much for giving me this opportunity to be here, Gemini.
Thank you so much, Susan. And this concludes part 20 of our discussion on the 7 medicines, The Wise Woman Way with Susan Weed at Time Monk Radio.